All right. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? What is going on? How's everybody's 2026? What's up, DE Violets? Yeah, first one. Welcome in, welcome in. Yes, good to see you guys. So, welcome. How is everyone doing? I'm gonna go ahead and get some music playing up in here. Let's see what we got. Set the mood, set the tone. It's kind of that vibe. Anyway, but of course, I never have the music going too loud. It's more for me, just to kind of get my. It's quiet in this house. I can never have it be too quiet. Anyway, rocking a new setup or a little bit of a setup. So hopefully, you guys can hear and see me okay. What's up? What's up? Yes. I was just rendering my project turntable in ZBrush and I got this notification. Awesome. Well, Yuri, glad to see you here. So come on in. Hey, what's up, Flo? It's awesome. So today I thought we would, well, as you can see, I have this mimic character that I've been working and playing with for a teeny tiny bit. And my thought here was, of course, to just kind of go ahead and prep it for 3D print. So I thought it'd be kind of fun. Well, the first stream back of the year for me, so I thought this would be kind of a fun little process. You know, we'll give them a little bit of a base, and then we'll start prepping them for 3D print. We'll just see where the night takes us. So, and of course, if you guys have any questions, you guys know you can go ahead and ask away, and I will easily side tangent and answer those questions as best as possible. Also, too, just do me a favor. A lot of you probably already have, but you know, if you can do all the fun things like comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, you know, just bell notifications. Just say, all right, cool. Anyway, all right. So last year, we were actually, while I was at work, we were actually showcasing workflows with game assets, and then I made this little mimic guy, and I thought, you know what? Let me go ahead and prep him for 3D print. I think it'd be really cool. And so maybe get a little bit more of an expression out of this tongue. But it'd be fun to make a little bit of a miniature or even a big fella. Yeah, big fella would be kind of cool. So let's go ahead and do that. So right now I have a few subtools that may or may not be together. So what I like to do with my 3D print prep is I like to make sure that certain things get welded together correctly, and then we can kind of fine tune and tweak as we need it. So you could see that I have like the skin. If we were to just break this up, so hit Shift X to kind of see all the stuff and things here, you can see I actually have like tiny little bolts, legs, tongue, framing for the chest, the actual chest itself. But a lot of this stuff was actually made pretty lightweight because it was meant for like an asset for a game level that me and my colleague Rodolfo Silva were putting together. So we're going to essentially crunch this down to some bare bone basics. So, and if you've never 3D prep before, then you're in for a treat. So let's look at some of the easier stuff. And also, if the music is too loud, please let me know. Okay, so first thing I like to do is I like to kind of isolate things according. So we need to put these in folders so we can work with them a lot simpler. So I'm going to open up the gizmo by hitting W, and then I'm going to focus on this little pizza box right here. This little transpose all selected subtools, aka the pizza box. We turn this sucker on, and now this is going to allow me to select multiple subtools at the same time. And here, if I just go ahead and drag across what I want, so I want to select just the top part of the chest and all of the bolts associated with it, but you can see it also grabbed the skin. So we could just hit Control Shift and tap what we don't want, and then we can go ahead and say Control F to put this in a folder. And because we have multiple subtools that are visible, and this is actually just selecting the chest components, it's going to ask if I want to put the visible subtools in a folder. So we're going to say yes, always yes for this, and we're going to say top chest. Boom, donezo. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time for the bottom. So let's deselect what we don't want and select what we do. So say something like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and Control Shift Tap. And now we just have the bottom. Oh, but look, we do need this little keyhole thing here. Okay, great. And then Control F, and we'll call this bottom chest. There we go. And then from here, we're going to weld together. So let's deselect those. And now we're going to get the teeth and we're going to get the main body. We'll put this together. We'll just call this body for the simple argument's sake. And then from here, the tongue and the feet, they're going to remain separated. So I don't really need to have those in a folder, but we'll shove these at the bottom. And then this is where you're going to learn the Ian can spell. So I'm going to go ahead and, yep, see, there we go. Tongue is always the one. Tongue is always the one that gets me. I don't even know these days. It doesn't even matter. You know what? Who cares about spelling? We'll call it tongue me. Whatever, dude. And that's a moment with Ian. All right, so we'll just do that. I'm not gonna waste my time on it. Okay, but before we start merging stuff and fixing it, we do need to give him a base. And I think I tested this once before, but let's do this. Let's actually make like a brick flooring. But here's the cool part. We actually can, let's come into our subtool folder and let's just insert a plain 3D. There we go. Boop, 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 boop. Say something like this, 90 degrees. Move this down and we're gonna scale this up just so we can get a sense of it. Okay, and we're gonna use this as kind of like a temporary holding place for some bricks that we're going to go ahead and lay down. And then the way we're going to do that is actually, and this shifts with a lot of ZBrushes, like far back. So if you open up the gizmo, or sorry, if you open up the light box by hitting the comma key and you go into brushes, instead of doing everything from scratch all the time, ZBrush actually ships with a few brick brushes that were actually created by some really cool artists back in the day. I'm trying to remember who made these specifically, but we have some IMM brushes right here. There we go. That just says brick. And this was made by Tate. So that's where you can find it. Really cool. And it has all these different bricks, which is nice. So now we can go ahead and lay down some bricks as we would want them. So let's find something that's halfway decent, that makes sense for, it's kind of like a cobblestone kind of thing. And just pick that guy. It should be fine. Let's drag this out. There we go. And what's cool, if you don't know, if you turn on the gizmo and use the arrow key, you can lay down one brick, and then when IMM brushes, you can literally kind of like zoom in, and you can see here that it's just changing the brick based on my left or right arrow keys. So it doesn't matter if you're like, oh, I don't know which brick I want to use. It's totally fine. You can just come through here and just like find something that makes sense. So in this case, I like this. Yo, what's up, Shane? 3D Character Workshop. Dude, thanks, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, dude. If you guys don't know Shane Olsen, 3D Character Workshop, what are you doing? Go say hi to him. Amazing person, amazing friend, and such an awesome teacher. I say this actually all the time, but like if you guys don't know, Shane's actually the one who like really taught me, got me into ZBrush like in depth, and really helped me out way back before the pandemic. It was really awesome. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and just kind of lay this down. I'm gonna flatten them a little bit because again, this is more for like walking and talking and stuff. Or what you could do, instead of just doing that, we can come through here, and this is what's fun. So I can come in and I can like grab this brick, and then again, I'm just gonna use the arrow key, right? And I'm gonna come through and find a different brick. Size that according, okay? Control drag, you guessed it, use the arrow key, find a different brick. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll go ahead and make this a little bit thicker. So this is really cool when you're just trying to like, you know, get something that will be halfway decent. And I'm not super worried about whether or not this is going to be like, you know, perfect. A lot of times when you're blocking anything out, it doesn't matter. If you're blocking anything out, you know, you just want to get the idea on paper. You don't want to sit here and fiddle with, you know, this doesn't look super good. It's like a trust the process kind of moment. So that's what we're going to do. And again, I could sculpt these bricks from scratch, but also, it's fine. This is going to give me what I want. Hey, what's up, Matthew? How you doing, buddy? Of course. Yo, Toy Maker Andrew, what's going on? Yo. All right, let's actually rotate this one around. And what's cool is I can also, right, we could put this in the center and I can rotate this 180 degrees and get a different variation of that same brick. Or you can even do like 90 degrees, right? So if you want something just a little bit different, then just do that. So you get some good options. Now, this already kind of bothers me. And what I'm talking about actually is this line and this line. Like it, you know what I mean? Like this, I mean, this could be feasible, but also it's just kind of bothering me. Like I don't want that kind of repeating. I don't want that kind of repeating value. So I want something just a little bit different. So just a bit variation change. There you go. Say something like that. And again, we can even squish this in a little bit, making them imperfect. Let's control drag that bad boy right there. Yes. And then again, we'll just come through, find something a little bit. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Kind of like, I like that. That's neat. There you go. Kind of just boom, boom, boom. Again, we can rotate this one around, center it, maybe turn this over like 90 degrees. Yeah, that gives me a little bit of a cool variation here. Awesome. And let's do one more because we could always change things up after we've did what we want to do. So let's go towards the end. Do we have... Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's cool. Let's turn this around. Have something like that. Something like this. Okay, great. So now that we got this kind of thing, let's go ahead and just Control-Shift-A, inverse this, and let's just do a kind of delete hidden. Actually, no. Let's do a split, and I'll show you why in a little bit. Because we're going to want to actually, usually when you're laying down brick or you're laying down cobblestone, right, you need to pack it in something. It's not just going to sit there aimlessly. You need to pack it with something, some sort of like dirt or some sort of like, I forget the technical terms, but you know, you have like, you have glue. So you have stuff that's like packed in there, some sort of like mud compound. Anyway, I'm sure somebody who's much smarter than me has the answer, but you want something that's a little bit different. So you're going to want to make it look like it got packed into some dirt and giving it some kind of ground. So the space in between the bricks can get filled for our base. Am I going to Vegas this year? Always great to visit. That is the plan. Yeah. NAB should be on my, is actually, yes, I will be in Vegas for NAB, which is in April 19th-ish, around that time. So yes, sir, I shall be. I'm assuming you will be as well. So if you are at NAB, yeah, you definitely have to stop by. Okay, so now notice too, how we have a little bit of an interesting situation here, right? We have the fact that everything's kind of lined up except for these guys right here. So that's okay. So one of the cool poly group tricks, you notice that each brick has its own poly group, right? Even the ones that kind of look close to each other. So I could just Control-Shift-Tap and then inverse and tap and grab the ones that I want. Let's get select rec so we grab the whole thing. I could do that, but a really cool trick is to Control-Shift-Drag and just hover over the things I want to grab and then Control-Shift-A. And then that will bring everything visible that's not welded. So that's a quicker way, in my opinion, to go ahead and get something that's pretty doable. Now I want these bricks to be flattened out a little bit, but I don't want them to be squished. Okay, so one of the things we can do is by holding Control-Shift, open up our brush menu and go to Clip Curve. And with Clip Curve, we could just, of course, shadow side up, clip it, and then boom, we're set. But again, I don't want them to be clipped like that. So instead of just doing that, Control-Shift for Clip Curve, and then from here, right, what we could do is that if you just bring that intensity down just a little bit, so Control-Shift-Z, it's always set to 100 on the Z intensity. If you bring that down to say something like 50, now if I come through here and I clip it, now it's going to kind of crush that just a little bit. So now they're more flat, but they're not, again, they're not like clipped, they're not super crushed. And that's just the Z intensity. And then I could grab these guys here, right? Come in and then kind of like bring this up a little bit and maybe extend them and get them relatively close. Right, grab this guy. And the other thing too is instead of doing what I just was doing, where like you hide one and then you flip it, then you mask all the other stuff, don't even do that. Just open up the gizmo and control tap the one that you want, and then reset your gizmo, and then you can just affect the one brick that you want. And just like that, we have them relatively flat the way we would like. Now I'm going to be actually merging these into a base that's kind of circular. So eventually we will be getting rid of the bottom side, but for now, this will work out well. And then what we want to do is, of course, now we want to repeat this a little bit. And there's a few ways you can do that. First way is doing exactly what you saw me do. I can actually just control drag, get something like this. And then while I'm still holding the arrow to move things around, I could just let go of control and I could do this. And that's fine. But, you know, that's going to give some similarities. That's going to get a repeating pattern and stuff. So I'm going to have to manually go through there, which is fine. You want to do that anyway. You want to kind of mix your stones up a little bit. And that's not too difficult. We could also control drag, and then we could even flip this around. So now we get the bottom side. Something like that. Okay, great. Then we can control drag this again. And again, now we could kind of flip this around, get this back to 180. Okay, kind of move this here this way. And this will be now less stones to kind of manipulate and stuff like that. And then what we can also do is come through. Yeah, let's just do this. That'll be fine. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a variation of these stones. So we already have a little bit more of a breakup. And so we're going to go ahead and polygroup, auto group. There we go. And now from here, I'm going to delete the stuff I don't really care about. So I don't want these because they look too similar to the one I have up there, which is fine. I'm actually going to get rid of these as well. There we go. So again, just kind of breaking up the variation. I definitely don't mind this because that looks different than here, and that's plausible. Let's get rid of this guy and this guy and this guy. We'll leave those there. Maybe this one we'll get rid of. There we go. Okay, and then we'll add in some of our own stones, and it'll look pretty good at that. Let's go here, delete hidden, and now I'm just going to go ahead, control tap, grab a brick, reset that. I'm going to control drag, and now you guessed it, we're just going to go find another stone. That's kind of cool. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. That one's a bit different. Actually, you know what? Let's place that one. Yeah, let's place that one here. There we go. Let's do that. Control drag this. Just find something that's too similar to that one. That's okay. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And again, just kind of come down. Okay, so here we're just hovering some stones above. That's fine. So we can bring that down to match the rest. Perfect. Hey, what's up, Scree? That's how I say it, Scree. Where's Scry? Scree. Scree. I'm probably saying that all wrong. What's up, Heather? Okay. Let's go ahead and get this guy going. There you go. Kind of squishy squish. Squishy squish that. There we go. Control drag. Again, making this a little bit different. And, you know, again, you can kind of come up here too. Instead of using the arrow key, you can find something like this. There you go. Kind of crush that just a bit. Squee. Okay. There we go. Gonna do something like this. Awesome. Actually, let's fatten it up too. There we go. Bam. I mean, there's definitely going to be some similarities, of course. Not going to be able to... You just want to try to use as many different as possible. Make it look a little bit more natural. this over here. Again, we have other side of the brick, so let's move that like 180. There you go. Let's come in, kind of crush that just a teeny bit. Let's find a new brick. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, that one's cool. There we go. And then one more time to get us what we're looking for. And let's just roll the dice. As long as it doesn't look like that guy down there or any other brick. Okay, that one's pretty cool. All right, I like this one because at least it has a crack in it, but it doesn't look on the surface like it's identical. There you go. Beautiful. Okay, and now we're just going to go ahead and move this down, and we're going to place this somewhere like that. So we got this mimic that I made last year for like a game prop asset or game character asset. And now we're just going to be 3D printing him. So I'm prepping him for 3D print, and he needed a base. So we have to do a base, of course. Now we also, again, we need to kind of have like that filler in between the brick. So I just like to take a plane. We're going to cut a lot of this out. So it's going to be, again, kind of like a circular thing. So what we can do here, also, if you guys wanted to, like something else you could do is use array mesh, by the way, if you wanted to use, get more of like the repeating brick pattern and stuff like that. So if you have your subtool, say something like this, and you turn on array mesh, make sure your gizmo is centered to the object or the subtool that you're looking to array. And you want to turn on the transpose or the gizmo. The reason why it's labeled transpose is literally because back in the day, we had this transpose line, and it was based off of that transpose line. The gizmo did not exist right out the gate. The gizmo came much, much later. So because I came later, that's why it's labeled transpose. So get your transpose or your gizmo. So that basically ties the array mesh to that gizmo. And then you want to lock the position, so then you can work off of this from center. And then from here, what you can do, right, is let's say we want to actually move this to the left or to the right or back and forth. What's really cool about this, of course, is that ZBrush's axis by this little guy facing forward, right? X, screen left to screen right is going to be x-axis, y is up and down, and then z is z depth, hence the name ZBrush. So from here, we want to just basically offset this. So we have the z-axis, the front and the back and forth. So if I move this forward, you can see I can actually kind of repeat this, and I could find something that works. So this is like a value of 2 movement. And then you can also change it on the X as well, or even the Y if you needed to. You can't really see that because that's up and down. So that's another way that you could actually set up an array to have the table itself moved, or not the table, but the floor moved in a way that you'd want. And then you can just come down and say make mesh. I don't really need to do an array for this, but just calling that out in case you wanted to know. So here we need to kind of fill the in-betweens, and then this is where the plane is going to come in. And I'm just going to grab the clay buildup, and then I'm just going to, while on top of this guy, let's give him some subdivisions. Okay. And now we're just going to go ahead and start sculpting on it. And I'm just going to go wild. I'm not going to be perfect. We can hide the mimic right now because he's kind of in the way. But instead of going and just hiding him by clicking one of these eyes, under the visible, like the visible counter, we have, visibility 1 through 8. These are like subfolders. So I can literally pick V2 and just turn on the things that I want. So if I go back to V1, then everything's visible. Then when I go to V2, only the things I want under V2 are visible. And so that can just help me quickly switch between, instead of coming down here and hitting solo or clicking each and every single one, just V1 set up the way I want, V2 set up the way I want. Makes that really simple. Okay, and now we're just gonna go ahead and just give it some of that filler. I feel like I got like a Stranger Things vibe on, and I love it. What song is this? Smooth. I don't know, okay, if you guys can hear that, that's awesome. I'm such a music person. Anyway, whatever. Okay. All right. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and fill this in and see, even though the bricks are kind of touching in some areas, that's okay, because we can make it look like they're not touching. And if they are touching and we're like, ugh, this is annoying, again, let's just go ahead and kind of just move that a little bit. Let's move that one up. Just the more variation we can give it. Ah, see, okay, so we have a couple here that are different. That's fine. Just go to polygroup, auto group, fix that problem because we duplicated. And that's what happened. There we go. Let's squeeze that in. Grab this one. Boom. There we go. Secret sauce. All right, hot topic. I'm very curious, and not hot topic as in the store, but a hot topic. I'm dumb. Anyway, have you guys all caught up on Stranger Things? And if so, like, what's your consensus? I personally was a little disappointed, but ultimately I still enjoy the show. But yeah, I was just kind of curious what you guys thought. Although, I need to get back to my Demogorgon sculpts. I started doing a Demogorgon on the iPad version. And dude, so cool. I really do love sculpting random creatures. Okay. There we go. Cool. All right. Something like that. Let's come back here, and then let's just continue. Kind of look at it at the side. Kind of just fill this up. Okay. Now the trick to anything 3D print is, of course, making things watertight. That's the goal. And so to make something watertight means that there are no random holes that would be open. And so that's like what you want to always strive for. And there's a few different ways inside of ZBrush to get that stuff done with full control. So we're gonna get to that here in a second. Actually, I'll show it to you on this base, and then we'll get into some key cutting. I like to make custom keys because each model is a little bit different, but nonetheless, we can show some cool custom key cutting. You got 3 episodes left? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Well, in Vegas, we could talk about it, buddy. That's your window. Whatever you're doing this weekend, finish it. All right. I demand. I also started watching with my son the new season of Jujutsu Kaisen, and I am so freaking stoked on it. It's a lot of exposition though. Lots of talking. So you got to be locked in to understand what's going on. But I think that's cool because, from what I understand, the manga has a lot of exposition as well. Okay. Got distracted by binging Severance. Yeah, dude. Okay, Severance is on my list. Severance is on my list. That's one yeah. Not gonna lie, I've been doing a lot of Street Fighter. I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter lately. Finally got 2 of my characters to master rank, and working on my 3rd, and I've been that's been some fun stuff. But Severance is definitely on the list. I hear it's good. I think my problem with some shows is the heavier they are right now, I would say the least likely I am to get into it. And it's just literally because I don't want to deal with anything majorly serious if I don't have to. probably, you know, ooh, see, look at this. I'm gonna move this brick. I'm gonna give this brick a little bit of a variation here. I'm gonna move this brick, and I'm gonna have it like it's split apart when they set it down. Like, so this one got cracks, but this one also was damaged in another way. Hey, what's up, Ronaldo Silva? Actually, I'm not making a tileable texture, believe it or not. I am making a base. But I love that you're so excited about it. You're adorable, my friend. Although I've done tileable textures this way, yeah. I know, I think you also had a tutorial, right, Rodolfo? You had a tutorial about this? Oh, you know what? I'm missing a brick, guys. I'm missing a brick. Okay, that's fine. So let's come over here. Although, this is what we also want to do. We also want to check to see, like, I'm going to make this a circle base. So I'm just going to take the mask and kind of take a look at, like, what I need. So if I were to make this into a circle right now. Okay. If I were to make this into a circle right now, say something like this. And I were to, again, come over here, go to solo, go to V1. Perfect. That actually is big enough. So this is what I do. I try to like kind of see what makes sense for the character. And actually that still may not be, that might be too big. So a lot of times you just want to, with bases, I mean, obviously each base is going to be unique to its own, but with certain bases and stuff like that, you don't want the base to like outshine the character, but you want the base to make sense for said character. So for something like this, I definitely want to make sure that this actually incorporates well, but we also need to worry about volume and proportion. So that needs to happen as well. So if I come back over here, I'm going to go ahead and we may have to size this down just a little bit. Yeah, so if I were to come in and let's actually scale this down just a teeny bit. There we go. Now if we take a look at like what this could mean, say something like this. There we go. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so now looking at the way this is, I'm not going to waste my time adding another brick over here because I'm just going to end up live booleaning this and cutting it. So it doesn't make sense, and that's totally fine. So let's actually put this guy in a folder. So here, let's turn this on. We got these two. Let's put this in a folder, and we're going to call this base. This is all about that base, about that base. I meant, oh, you meant question mark, multiple streams? Yeah, love work texturing workflows as a whole. I know, absolutely. Make a cylinder and use a bool. Oh my gosh, T Marshall. You already know. You already know. You already know. See, that's why I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Yep, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to do two things, though. We're not just going to add a single cylinder because I am using the single-sided plane for the grout or whatever that's called, right? We'll just call that grout. I think that's how you spell that. And then let's come over here and call this bricks. Okay. And now from here, this will be the base. Yeah, because I'm really clever with my conventions. And now from here, we're going to go ahead and kind of position this as big as we would like that to be. So again, let's just come over here. Let's kind of give it a decent size. Okay. And I'm going to shrink this down. And then we kind of need to now put this so that it's kind of under a bit. Now, what we also need to do, again, we kind of need to make sure that everything is like where it needs to be, where all the grout and stuff is. So maybe bring that up a little bit more. Or instead of doing that, actually, we just kind of need to flatten these bricks down. There we go. Then we can come up a little bit. And then let's come over here. Let's go back to V2. And let's turn on the bricks and the grout. There you go. And now we'll just kind of clean this up a little bit. So the idea here is I want all this texture in it, but I don't necessarily want there to be like giant holes and stuff like that. I don't want like big gaps, you know. I want things to feel natural, but still kind of, words are hard, but you know, still kind of like purposeful. So I want this to be, it's going to be small. It's going to be, oh God. We'll look up the right sizing I want to take it for, but basically I want this to have texture, but I don't want there to be like big like valleys and peaks. So we want to kind of bring this up a little bit, and we'll just find the right position. Again. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Yep. 25.4. Yeah, I was thinking 25 in my head, so yeah. It's going to be small. And he's going to be good looking. But I'm going to take one extra step with this. And I will show you guys what I mean in a little bit. There's going to be two versions of him. There's going to be just like a miniature version, and then maybe we'll make a bigger one. Miniature will be easy because a lot of that's just going to get weld together. And then you can literally print that with just supports on resin or filament. Call it a day. But for the bigger version, like I want not a life size because that's ridiculous, but you know, maybe I don't know, maybe like six inches tall, maybe. So if we do that, then I want to cut his feet and stuff like that. So we'll actually prep for a small one, and then we'll prep for a big one. Kwin, what's happening? New ZBrush feature, project a mask from one subtool to another. Oh, I like how you think. I like how you think, man. There's a plugin that I really like called Intersection. I think it's called Intersection Masking, Intersection Masker. And that's actually really cool because if you have two things that are merged together, so for example, if we were to just go down here to merge and merge visible, there you go, boom. And I have this guy here. I haven't used it in a while, but here with the subtool, as it yells at me, live boolean system, current subtool signal, it's not watertight. Okay, so I need it to be watertight, which makes total sense, and it's because this guy right here, the grout itself, is not, it's single-sided, so it's not watertight. So that is okay. So let's actually do this. Let's just delete all from here. We don't need that. I'm gonna hit save, by the way, because I haven't done that in a minute. Let's do that one more time. So let's actually come in here, and then let's boop. Let's actually say delete lower, and then dynamic subdiv. Turn this on and just give it some thickness. There you go. But we'll give it thickness the other way. Yeah, something like that. Perfect. That should be pretty good. If we apply that, now that's a whole thing. And then from here, if I merge visible, should work this time. There you go. So when you click that, did it work? What happened to it? Let's try one more time. It's thinking. There we go. I have to click the button and actually do. Okay, so once you click that, then from here, it should go through and mask off all the bricks from the intersection. So it gives you this. And this is pretty cool if you want to get custom masking. So, but yeah. Just gonna throw that out there. But I like where your head's at. Nice. Best way I found to do keys is to make a plane, move a section of the center up, dynamic thickness, and 0.01, and bullets, identical position, negative at the same time. Nice. Absolutely. Yep, that is a fantastical way to do it. I work in scale when I do my key cuts, so you'll see my approach, which is pretty similar. Oh, you work in Kwin? Yes. Awesome. Good for you. Get it, get it. Which, by the way, Kwin, oh my gosh, I actually, like, I was bummed I missed the last sculpt off you guys did in your Discord, so I'm excited for the next one. Okay. Okay, beautiful. So let's go through, just kind of finessing this last little bit here. And something we're going to add too is a little bit of texturing to this because this is too clean. So, you know, there's a lot of like little pores and stuff like that that's like in grout or concrete. There's always just like a little bit of that texturing in there. And so before we start merging stuff, we're going to add that in there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some live boolean options first. So of course we have the base. This is where it's gonna get like, you know, there we go. This is where essentially it's gonna live. There you go, so to speak, like that, right? But I want to just kind of have this thing here. I need to give this some thickness, because right now, I could use the grout for thickness, but I'm just going to use this instead for a minute and just kind of find a happy medium for this. Here we go. Say something like that. I'm going to duplicate that by Control-Shift-Z, because that will be my ultimate cutter. And we can extend this up and kind of shrink this down just a little bit. Just for now. This will be the cutter. So this will be the base, cutter, boom. I'm just going to hide that for now. Okay. Very, very cool. Now let's give this base a little bit of subdivision, because when we merge things together, right now, if you take a look at this top part, there's really not a whole lot of edge loops or vertices to capture any type of stitching or welding together, unless we Dynamesh it, which is an option to do. But I would much rather use Sculptris Pro, or sorry, not Sculptris Pro, Remesh by Union. Sculptris Pro works too, but I'd rather use Remesh by Union to give me a better watertight mesh. So to do that, I'm definitely going to give the top part of this some more vertices. So we're going to go ahead and go to Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, and we're going to go ahead and say keep our polygroup, and we're just going to give it a bunch like that. Touch the bottom side just to keep it there, and that will be fairly decent. And then of course I'm just going to go ahead and group by normals, so I have different polygroups. And then from there I'm just going to go ahead and just crease by said polygroups, and that way I can just divide a few times, and then we'll just delete lower. Now this is super dense, which is great. Again, we're 3D printing, so we don't care about our topology. We care about how the model looks at the end of the day. Now from here, okay, autosave, do it, good job. I will save too. We'll get you in the next one. Yes, yes, I'm so excited. Yes. Okay, so now from here, we're gonna go ahead and go to our base, and we're gonna need to set this to like a subtraction, or in this case, I think it's actually a union at this point. Yes. So I'm gonna wanna actually use a union for this, which will then give me something like this. Now look at real quick how low topology this is. So for the cutter, I don't care about the surface topology, but I care about the side topology. So for that, we're gonna come up here, we're gonna do groups by normal. Again, same thing. We're going to do crease those polygroups, then we're gonna divide a few times, delete lower. That stitching is gonna be a lot better. There we go. And so now that's gonna come through, and we can see exactly how this looks. Let's come back to V1. Turn that back on. There we go. And then from here, we could scale this as we would like. Say something probably like that. Yeah, very, very cool. Now we could see we have a little bit of holes here, or there might be some potential holes here, and that's okay. So we could just actually come through and kind of try to fill those up a little bit. So I can just find each hole, grab that grout, and maybe just kind of pull on it. That's fine like that. Yeah, there we go. What you can also do is, because it's just a thickness thing, zoom in, baby, zoom in. There we go, because it's just a thickness thing. What we could do is let's actually go to our brush, and then let's come in here to our back face mask, and that way we can actually pull down that grout, and that will help cover those holes. So anytime you see a hole like this in your prep process, just go ahead and grab your move brush, go to brush auto masking and back face mask, and pull that down. And once you see that hole disappear, you are kosher. There you go. This is actually a really just effective way to making sure that none of those holes exist. Again, because that will cause some non-watertight issues, and we don't want that. Perfect. All right, beautiful. Sounds pretty good. Awesome blossom sauce. Now what we can also do, okay, is we can duplicate this base one more time, bring this down to the bottom, just give it like a little bit of a lip. If you would like to do that, you can absolutely do something like this, just to give it a little bit of that kind of, I don't know, just a little bit of a feel to it. It's up to you. Whatever works well for you. Also, actually, instead of doing it like that, here's what I would recommend. So I'm going to come through here, and we're actually going to reconstruct subdivisions all the way back to the basic. We're going to give it a lip instead. So let's go Z Modeler. So BZM. Come in here, going to hover over that edge loop and go polygroup. Grab a couple of these. QMesh. Polygroup all. I'm going to drag this up. We can't because we have subdivisions. Delete that. Come in here, tap the X just to give it a little bit of a lip. And so now you can see here, we got a little bit of a lip if you wanted to go this route as well. And again, you could just subdivide a few times. Boom, boom, boom. And you can do that. Now we don't have any creasing on this one right here. So that's why I was kind of rounding off. So we just hit crease polygroups. Boom, boom. There you go. Say something like that. Awesome. And then from here, to control the cut of this, turn this on. You can actually just kind of bring this up until that part disappears. There you go. Now that's cutting on the inside there. So you can see here, that bottom part, it's not showing because we're doing an intersection. So it's making sure that that gets put in there like that. Then we have this lip. I think I'll go with a lip for now. It's kind of cool. There we go. And then let's just move the bricks around. Oh, I have backface mask turned on, so let's turn that off. Looks like nothing is happening. That would be why. Awesome. Okay, very cool. The chaotic method that I work. And then from here, let's just go ahead and then just boolean the folder. Why is my quick saves lagging? Ooh, that's a great question. So your quick saves could be lagging simply due to the fact that you're running out of hard drive space. So what I would recommend is you come up here to your Spotlight and go under quick save and take a look at your quick save folder. And you can see here, I have quite a lot. Well, all of these, the quick save saves ZPRs, ETLs, and sometimes an OBJ. And when it does that, it's going to back up a lot of these different files. So what you want to do is, let me see if I can find it real quick, if I remember, but there's a way to go ahead and do that. So let me just make sure, just so, because I don't want to show anything I'm not supposed to show. So I'm gonna move this off screen for a second. And then, where is it? Do I remember? Whoops, wrong button. Yes. Pretty sure it's there. Or did we move it? Ooh, did we move it? Is it under the asset now? I think it's under the asset. Hold on one second. We actually just had an update with the asset directory. So I have to remember, did we move it there? Yes, we did. Okay, great. Yeah, so it does, it's changed now, which is great. So you go to preferences. This is a good change. So go up to preferences in 2026 and you go to your open directory, and that will take you to where your ZBrush is saving your quick saves. And here under quick save, here's all of it. And again, these are big files, and as you can see, some of them are breaking a gig. So what you'd want to do is actually come in here and make sure you have enough hard drive space, and then delete the quick saves you're not utilizing. That's the way to do it. If you are in the if you're in a previous version, then what you would want to do is go to your PC, go to your C drive, go into users, under public, you have your Pixelogic, and then you have some projects that are defaulted and stuff. So you can come in here to sort out a lot of that mess. I think there was one more location. I just want to remember where things live. It's been a minute since I've done that because we changed some things and the change is really good. Okay, I'm blanking on it, but yeah, that's where you go. How to set quick saves to a custom folder? My C drive is getting full. No, great question. So what version of ZBrush are you in? Because if you, the other thing, what I recommend, in the new asset directory in 2026, this is solved for you. So you can actually change that location and find a folder that's off. So this is actually one of the new updates, and why, you know, and this would be affecting the quick save as well, is because I actually run off of a directory that's set on my D drive. So I have a 2 terabyte D drive that I work off of, and that's where that lives, and then that's where all that setting itself is. In previous versions, I don't think, I'm not 100% certain if you could change the location of the quick save. So one of the things that we did was, if you come down here to the bottom, and under quick save is delete quick save files, and you can change how many quick save files you have. It's set to 1,000, but you can change that to say, like, I don't want to exceed 200. And then you just have to come up here to your configuration and say control, you know, config save, store that config, and that would change that. But I don't think you can change the location in previous versions. 2024. Yeah, I don't think you're able to. Let me see real quick. Let me just double check. Let me see something real quick. Let's see. Yeah, don't think you can do that, but yeah. So in previous versions, this should also be in 2024. So if I were to go to here, and then I need to go to my users, my public, and then my users, public documents. I don't have documents here. Oh, public documents. I'm dumb. And then come here to your ZBrush data. That's where it's at. It took me a second. I had to look it up. But anyway, so then you come in here to your data, and then you can come through your quick save and delete. So you can see I don't really have much in here. But yeah, you can't change this location. You can't redirect ZBrush to it. That's where the quick save in 2026 comes in. The new quick save in 2026 is so you can point to that new directory. And that was this was much requested by universities and big studios. I don't know. If you can, Martin, I can't remember. I don't know if you can repoint to it. What you could do is install ZBrush on a bigger hard drive. You can, and then it will work off of that hard drive. But I always think it links to the C drive. I'll have to look it up to be 100% confident. I don't fully remember. So apologize for that. Okay. Well, if you did, let me know. I don't remember how to do that if you can do that. Yeah, let me know, Martin. That'd be cool. Because if so, then great. More power to us than we can do. But I can't think of a way to do that. Yeah. But it could be possible. I'm just blanking on it. Because where would you... Let's see. Yeah. You can delete, max duration, optimize, skip setup. I'll have to look it up. Yeah. Get back to me, Martin, and then let me know. Okay. Let's move on to our bricks. Now, this is where, too, I'm going to turn off color. I don't need to keep color for this character. It's not something I need to do. But, you know, at the same time, it's important to know that you can work with color. But I like to work, when I'm 3D print prepping, I like to work with a base material like this. And then this way, you can actually work based off of this point. So I can see a little bit more of the details, which is awesome. So I'm going to grab the legs now, and we're going to kind of move this around and just have it touch the surface of the bricks that it's on. Now there's two ways to go about print prepping stuff, and one of them is to weld to the actual model, and another way is to create keys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do a bit of both at the same time. So it's kind of a gooey thing, so we can actually kind of crush his feet into the bricks and have it engage a little bit more. And then we could sculpturally fix some of that stuff. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. And we are just adding the feet on down. There we go. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I do have surface noise turned on the feet because the details are just being projected right now. So we'll have to make sure we confirm all that. Okay, so this is now touching. And again, if we want to see how much this is touching, this is what's really cool. So we can go to V3, turn this on and turn this on, and then we can go ahead and go to our merge visible, which gives us this subtool. And then we can come in here and go intersect. And then it's saying it's not fully watertight, so we'd have to fix that. Oh, okay. So you edited the quick save path text file. See, that's where I'm not a coder. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. So, okay. So you actually went and rewrote something. Okay, that's fascinating. Okay, I don't know if I could fully recommend that. Yeah, because I don't know properly how to edit a text file to then redirect it. So that makes more sense because, okay, so to go back to the quick save redirect path, natively within ZBrush, there's not a way to redirect your quick save. But if you, apparently some people have found a way to do it by editing the text, the ZBrush quick path, so the ZBrush quick save path.txt file. I am not recommending that you do that because I can't, but there you go. That's what I can say. So yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Thanks, C. Martin. Appreciate you, man. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so I could use that going back to the model now. Great stuff. But I could use the intersector again, making this watertight. So a way that you could do that too, just to kind of see, you know, we're not going for full like accuracy here, but what we could do is we could just grab this stuff, make that one poly group, make this 2 poly groups, okay? And then from here, what we can do is we can go poly groups, sorry, not poly groups, we can go geometry, we can go to Dynamesh, turn groups on, just find how thick this is, just Dynamesh it real quick so that way we get all the watertight stuff out the way. And then we can use the mask intersector to see how much of the feet are actually intersecting with the base itself. Okay, great. So that should make this relatively watertight, but because it's Dynamesh, right, it's not welded. So that's good. So now we can come through here, although that is quite dense. That's 11 million, so that's crazy. But here, let's just go ahead. Oh, live boolean needs to be turned off. That will work too. Thank you. What the heck? Why are you yelling at me? Okay, let's go here. Aha, there. That's why. All right, fix mesh integrity. Anytime you have a mesh error, go to fix mesh integrity. That will most likely solve it. Also, too, what you could do, and this is something to note, is if you go to polygroups, we want to make sure there's no floating particles anywhere. If there are floating particles, even if you think your mesh is welded or watertight, it will consider not to be watertight. So the way to solve this is to go to auto groups, right? And then I'm just going to, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, great. I'm just going to isolate, hide here, isolate, isolate, isolate. And if I click this and everything seems to be gone away, there's actually floating particles. If I Control Shift Z swipe, it should give me the feet and the base. If I Control swipe again, there's particles here. So that means, yeah, I need to go to here. I need to go to delete hidden. So geometry, modify topology, and delete hidden. And now there you go. So then if I were to click this guy, move this over, and then when I get to the last subtool, it should flip to the legs. Boom. So no floating particles. So that's correct. Now this should be considered to be watertight. So if I were to actually check that, you could check that. Go to transform, analyze selected subtool, pick a size, any size. Okay, it says it's not watertight. So this is where you can kind of do that. This plugin's a little finicky, kind of interesting, but it is what it is. Mesh integrity, let's try that. Fix it. Okay. And let's go to Dynamesh. We don't need it that ridiculous. Just re-Dynamesh that. There you go. It's a little bit lighter. It's 2 mil now. Still holding all the detail, which is fine. Let's come here, check that one more time. Okay. And it should please work. Okay, well, I'm not going to waste my time on it. I know it's intersecting, but yeah, what a pain. Okay. So watertight means that there are no holes in the actual topology. So what do I mean by that? Let's actually, and that's a great question. So here, I'm going to go ahead and grab a sphere, just solve for a second. So right now, if I were to take a single polygroup, so this is all watertight, meaning that everything is welded together and that everything, all the vertices are welded and touching so that there's essentially nothing on the inside, right? But if a single poly is deleted like this is no longer watertight because now it sees a hole in the mesh, and this is a hole, right? So if we were to come here, this in theory, right, should be watertight because it is absolutely, everything's welded together. If I were to delete that, then come back in and check it one more time, it's not watertight because again, it just identifies that there is a hole in the mesh. And so what Dynamesh was actually designed to do is to weld things together, delete the internals, and then make sure that it's watertight, that it's a solid mesh. And that's kind of what we want to do here. And so there are ways to go ahead and try to fix certain things. Now, one of the aspects, I mentioned it earlier, was stitching. You see how these rocks are now stitched to this actual internals here? And that is because, you know, when we merged the folder together, we booleaned it, it deleted the inside and stitched things together. But what I can see now on further inspection is it looks like there are some holes. And this is why it's not being, this is why it's not watertight. So if you look at your mesh, this is now floating topology. It didn't stitch together correctly. So that just means we need to fix that in the actual main mesh itself. And that is why the intersection masker is not working, because of that little error right there. And there might be all sorts of little errors. I just kind of have to inspect the model and kind of see what we got. So we'll delete this one because we don't need it. So let's hit delete. And let's turn the base back on with boolean. Come back under V2 or just V1, that's fine. There we go. And now we can figure this part out. Hopefully, did I answer your question, G-Key? Hopefully it did. Okay. Oh, is that a hole in my... Whoa, what is happening? Okay, calm down there, buddy. All right. Let's go to V3 and let's actually turn just the base on. Perfect. Yeah, I get it. It means there should be no hole. Exactly, yeah. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that I explained it correctly. Okay, so here now, I'm gonna kind of fix a little bit of this. We're also gonna add some of that texture I was telling you guys about. So we need to do that as well. This is our opportunity. So we can either move the brick around to make this work, or we can just like put grout and stuff over it. So depends on what you want to do. If we use the move topological, I could probably just shove that in like this. Yeah, there you go. And then I can also just kind of inflate it a little bit. Say something like that. And then from here, let's go to geometry, Dynamesh, turn on groups, and then let's up the resolution. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so that should be a lot better. There we go. Just kind of refix that a little bit. It's okay that there's a little bit of softness to it though. I mean, bricks and edge wear and all that stuff happens. Okay, cool. So I'm fixing areas that seem like it would be a little funky. And I'm just actually just giving it a little bit of an inflate and then just re-dynameshing it. There we go. So we can always go back in and we can do some sort of like, yeah, we can do a full edit to it later. Okay. Just gonna bring that in. A little bit of biggerness. Okay, let's do this. Let's save. And then let's add like some pitting to like this grout. So the way to do that would be going to surface noise. We'd be going into the surface in here, and then this is kind of what we're looking at right now. And so from here, we're gonna go ahead and actually, is that the one we're looking at? That's part of it. Where is it? Okay, that is part of it. Yes. Perfect. All right, yeah, so we're gonna go into this one here. And this is what's actually pretty cool, is of course we can mask this section off. And of course the noise that we make is only going to be affected where the mask is, or sorry, where the mask isn't. So let's go back in here. Let's go into edit. And now we're just going to first push some texture, find the scale. This doesn't have to be super big. Yeah, something like that. And then we're going to mess with the curve a little bit. So we're actually going to bring this curve up, kind of flattening that, making that a little bit more like a kind of concrete-y texture. And then we're going to start pulling this down just a bit. We're going to find a balance here. It might be a little hard to see, so let's scale this up. There you go, but you can kind of see how this is being affected. And what's cool is we can also make this sharp. So I can grab a point, come in, and I can make that a sharp point. Say something like this. There we go. Let's kind of pull that down. I'm really just kind of looking for a certain vibe. There we go. Yeah, say something like that. That's pretty cool. So that gives me that kind of like, that like grittiness to it, which is pretty cool. I like that. And what's fun is if we just apply this to mesh, right? Now it's going to be really low res because our model's low res. So we need to subdivide a few times. So let's go here to geometry, and then it's masked off. So let's divide a few times. Yeah, that should be fine. There we go. And then let's go back to masking this area off. So see, the mask protects it. There we go. Come in here, surface, and say apply to mesh. Yeah, that gives us a little bit more of what I'm looking for, which is cool. let's see here. Hey, what's up, Adrian? A question: have you ever worried about? Oh, sorry, worried amount art information or about art information when we have comes in, then be just awkward at times. I'm not sure if I understand your question. Oh, did the audio drop out? Oh, I guess it was just you. Oh, okay. If you're worried, if you could try to rephrase the question, I would love to answer it, Adrian. I just want to make sure I understand it. Let's see here. How can I wrap or conform like a stem onto a sphere, similar to snake wrapping on prey? Oh, interesting. Well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, there's a few things you can do with that. First off, here, let me hit save real quick. You like entertainment? I'm worried that that ever gets in. Like, you're worried it'll go away? Okay. Worry about that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, am I ever really worried about it like going away or ending or anything like that? I mean, I think everything is finite. I think everything is like, everything has a shelf life, so to speak. But I mean, there are definite trends in a lot of our industries where we do see kind of an uptick of a certain storytelling or a certain art style or a certain medium that just resonates with the general public. And then the industries, in my personal opinion, the industries then take that and they just kind of milk it for everything it's worth. So they go really hard on it. So you see, like, all right, we had a ton of vampire movies. All right, we had a ton of Marvel movies. All right, we had a ton of, just car movies, etc. So you kind of have to like take a step back a little bit and realize that, like, yeah, everything has a shelf life to it, because that same like right now, I think the comic industry is just like oversaturated, right? So of course then people start looking for something else, and then you have movies like Iron Lung that came in and just like dominated theaters, which was fantastic. So it's like, the what people are looking for is always evolving and changing. And one of the things I like about art as a whole is the ability to constantly be in like a creative mindset. And so that creative mindset in itself, of course, is going to lend to finding new things and playing around. So yeah, I mean, I think things change. There's an ebb and flow to it. I'm never really fully worried about it, though. Yeah, not in that way. Hopefully that made sense. Oh yeah, when they take good ideas and I can see that. Yeah, 100%. Okay, yeah. All right, so we had a question about wrapping a sphere or a thing to a sphere, and I think that's fantastic. So real quick here, let me just hit save, and then let me show you a couple things you could do for that. Absolutely. And they're always kind of fun. So I'm gonna grab a cylinder real quick. I'll use a sphere, but you can use a cylinder as well. But let's hit solo, and let's actually get some like halfway decent topology, because this right now is just like, this works. This is fine. Well, that's fine. It just has a pull on it, but anyway, I'm tangenting. So how to like wrap something like a stem or something around your sphere, cylinder, or anything that's round in nature. So essentially, there's a couple ways to do it. One of the easiest way to do it is by using a combination of polygroups and your like an actual curved brush. And you can turn any brush really into a curved brush. Like any IMM brush could be brought into to be made as a curved brush, and I can show you that as well. So from here, let's say I want to wrap something kind of in like this direction, where it's kind of like this, right? It's following that kind of curvature. Well, what you can do first is let's get a polygroup that's going to really help with that. So if I were to just grab or press Shift and Control, come up here and then say, let's use Slice Curve. Slice Curve allows me to slice in a new polygroup. But what's fun about the curve is that I can start to draw, I can tap Alt and get like a radius. And then if I tap twice Alt, it gives me a sharp line. So I can get this kind of curve shape here. So you can get some custom polygroups. And then from here, what you do is you actually come on up to Stroke, and then you come over here to our curve functions, and you pick polygroups, and you can frame that mesh. And now this is a curve that is being pushed or propagated around that polygroup. And from here, you could just say, oh, like, look, let's just use Curve ZBrush as an example. And I touch that, and now that is wrapping around the actual shape. Now, this is more of like using polygroups and having a lot of control of this specific shape. But if you want something a little bit more free-flowing, then one of the things would actually to really look at this fun little menu up here called the Picker menu. The Picker menu, so with curve brushes, as you can see here, I drew a curve out, and that is actually just has a starting point, and then as I draw out that curve, it is just going wherever it wants to go. Well, the Picker actually helps control how the brush sees the mesh on the screen. And one of the ways to do that would actually be to go to the Picker menu with your curve brush selected, and then going to depth and opening that up. Now you can see here that it is set to once Z. So what that means is the very first vertice that touches that curve is the locking point for my curve shape. And anything I do after that, ZBrush just ignores the other vertices, and it all gets driven off of that one point, and that's the once Z. But if I wanted to change this, and as I draw around have everything update in real time, the next one is continuous Z. So it's going to continuously look for the curves or the vertices as I'm drawing. And now it will perfectly wrap around that objects. Why this is cool is because let's say you have this shape and you have something like, oh, I need to draw a snake body. So here I can be like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start here and draw this. Now I can rotate, come in here, get close to that curve, and continue my stroke. Again, come on over, hover until I see that little red tail, pardon me, and continue my stroke. And now I have this shape here that I also can manipulate. I can come in here and start to move stuff. Now, of course, that is going to affect everything in that spot, but just moving that is very, very helpful. So you can kind of reposition as you need to. Let me get some water real quick. So now that you have like this curve, you also can just kind of pull it. Okay, doesn't want to pull right now, that's fine. Anyway, so you can go through and edit that, which is really cool. The other thing too is that anytime there's a clean, and I mean this with all intent of the word, a clean edge loop, with any curve, if I start drawing this out and I press and hold Shift, now it's going to wrap around and it's going to find a nice clean path to work off of. And see here, like it kind of broke there, so that's not super clean. So again, just drawing, as I draw off, press and hold Shift, and it's going to kind of wrap around. And then I can just go ahead and get something that is like straight across, wrapped completely around, and that will be a nice way to do that. Yep, that easy, bud, that easy. What's really cool is like, this is how I see a lot of artists and even myself, if you want to use like for example, let's do this. Let's say you got armor on a dude. So let's come in here. Let's go to tools. I'll show you something kind of cool. So let's get Nick, my buddy Nick. There you go. What's up, Nick? All right. So let's say we want to give our guy some quick armor. So I'm just going to first go ahead and use my masking. Let's make sure symmetry is turned on, which it is. Okay. Whee! Say something like this. Actually, just give him a full bodysuit. Okay, it's a little low res, so let's actually divide a few more times. Delete lower. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, that's a little bit better. There we go. Boom. Okay, so if we have something like this, and then let's go to our subtool. Let's come in here to extract, turn thickness to 0 and say extract, and then say accept. So now we have this kind of like our base mesh right here. And we have all these different poly groups, and that's fine because that pulled off of our character who had those quote poly groups, but we don't need those anymore. So now what we're going to do is just clean this mesh up a bit. So this has a nice like soft mask to it, so we can soften that just a bit more. Go to deformation, and we just want to clean up the actual features. So make it just a little, you know, not super sharp. And then let's make it one poly group. And we're just going to go ahead and ZBrush that real fast. Keep groups down to 0, adaptive down to like 2, and then 5,000 should be fine. Okay, yeah, this will be good enough for government work. Awesome. Okay, so now we have something like this. I'm going to go ahead and control and just blow that up so it's here. So let's say we want to add like, you know, some piping along the lines here. Then that's cool because look, we only have one poly group. But what we're going to do is I'm going to come back up to my stroke menu, and instead of polygroups this time, I'm going to say frame mesh border, and that's going to give me this. And now I can come in here and give them some piping. Now, something you might notice is, look, I have two sets of this, and that's because I have symmetry turned on. So I need to turn symmetry off to go ahead and just give it the 1, because the curve is going to be driven by the brush size. So I can tap this and say something like this, and look, boom. Now we have relatively a starting to like a bodysuit that has like some cool pipings and stuff like that. And of course, the curves can also be, let's go 3. The curves itself can, as long as they're live, they can be adjusted. So you can pick and choose the size that works best for you until you find something that you like. Yep, and then you're good to go. So yeah. So really, really fun, simple ways to get something wrapped around. And that picker, by the way, this is probably one of the least used menus, but it has such cool little stuff on that. So this is how to like, then you can save that brush out and then bring it back in whenever you want. And then continuously is always picked. So once you find a brush that you like, really simple. And then also too, I mentioned like if you have IMM brushes, so for example, you have, it doesn't matter, this army one, and let's say you wanted to turn this timing chain. Oh, that's it, that is a curve. IMM brush, give me IMM. Perfect, okay. So here, so let's say I wanted to do a ton of bolts like along his torso. So what I can do, it's actually, let's first, real fast, get rid of that curve shape. Let me split these points off. So I'm going to split unmasked. There we go. So now that's this. So now let's grab my IMM industry parts, and I want to turn this flathead into a curve. I just need to go back up to stroke, come over to curve, and turn on curve mode. And now I'm going to get a row of these bolts coming through here. And if I get a bigger brush size, you can see them. So from here, of course, you can adjust your curve itself. You can adjust the curve step. So that's going to give me more spacing along that curve there. So once I'm satisfied with that, I can Control Z this. Let's do brush size of 12. The other thing I can do as well is come back up here to that continuous Z. So again, I'm going to just come through here, wrap around, and now I got a bunch of bolts. You know, it's not always going to do perfect. It's going to go by the, it's going to go ahead and go by the mesh that it can tell. But you can see here, it's a lot sooner. You can also adjust the depth of this. So you can come over here to brush, go to depth, and adjust the depth, how much more you want that, and then update that. So that way you'll have a better chance. There we go, updated that. So now it's a better chance of that actually doing well. Boom. Get a row over here. Get a row over here. And there you go. Now you just gave him a bunch of bolts. I love that too, March. I love it. Okay, so there you go. There's definitely ways to wrap stuff around. All right, let's get back here. Wow, it's already 11:30. Okay, let's move into doing the character the rest of the way. And time flies when you're having fun. I'm gonna turn the base off just for a second, and let's now come in here. So this one, turning it into a mini is going to be really, really simple. So one of the things that we could do just to turn it into a mini, and if I don't want to really deal with like anything else, just flat out, this will be a mini as is. Then one of the things I can do is I can actually just do a merge visible. Okay. And then that's going to give me this guy. Now, something I want to note is that I don't have all the textures on here. That's fine. So let's delete that. Let's come back. Let's come to the feet. Let's go to surface and make sure we apply to the mesh. I gotta make sure there's no surface on anything else. Yep, there that is. Apply to the mesh. Okay. We can get a little, this is too clean of a texture there, I think. Yeah, it feels a little clean. That's fine. Yeah, I think that's going to be a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, it's too clean. Like the surface, like it's too smooth. I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is let's make a stone one. So let's come over here. And then, not stone, but I mean steel. So let's actually, it does have UVs, which is pretty cool. I did something right, hopefully. But here, let's just go UVs. Let's go noise plugin. And then what I want to do, I think, is maybe add a little bit of corrosion to it. Let's actually turn UVs off. Let's just come here. Let's see, let's increase the strength. Drop the scale down. And then let's actually go strength the other way. There we go. So what I want is like a little bit of texture brought in. So it's just not smooth. And then we can also, just like I had done with the other one, we can add in a little bit of a grid. We can even tile that a little bit if we wanted to. Or we can even adjust the focal shift on which side that's going to be pushed. Let's make that sharper. Let's come up this way. Maybe drag that down. There we go. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to copy that. Yeah, that should be fine. We just need a little bit, just a little bit of something. Gives me just a little bit of breakup. Okay, let's go ahead and go to noise. Let's go to paste. There we go. And now I'm just like, sharp edges for 3D printing is like bad. That, it's not like detrimental, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't want things to go too much to a sharp point. It can like essentially cause breakage or really thin walls. So you kind of want it to not be super sharp, but you want just a little bit of an edge relief. So I'm just lightly smoothing just some of the areas before I apply that texture, because I don't want to smooth the texture. There we go. Okay, so now apply. There we go. That'll give us something there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can always do some dents and stuff as well. 100%. What also I can do is we can go back into noise if we wanted. So we can go to delete noise, bring in a new one. And then, yeah, let's do dents. Let's go ahead and frame that. Or actually, no, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to go into Noise Maker. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you just need a little bit of pre-made goodness. I don't want that to be pink either, so color blend to 0. There we go. There we go. Yeah. This will be good. Copy. Good. Let's come here to white and then just apply the mesh. There you go. Same thing, delete, noise, paste, good, apply. Donezo. Just a little bit of texturing. Okay. And then one last thing too is there are some really smooth areas here. I would definitely spend some time cleaning this up, and I want to actually do that. We can give him, I had created, I don't know where it's at now. Let's see if I can find it. But I created this kind of mouth texture when I was doing it. But if I wanted to use this texture as is and then kind of texture the inside of his mouth, then we can actually do that pretty simple. So we'll just copy a part of this, which this part here is pretty cool. So let's go B for brush, and then let's go X for extractor, and then we're going to do the extract rec. And then all we need to do is just grab a section that we like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit G, and then I'm just going to drag that out until I find what I want. And that is going to go ahead and create a new alpha for me. I'm going to get, there we go. There we go. So that actually needs to be a little bit more. So let's do this. Let's go. Nope. Just hit G one more time. We're going to get this section right here. Or actually, let's do that section. Let's increase the intensity. And that is not 100% the way I want. The quality's a little low. So let's subdivide up. Oh, it's at its not at its lowest. Let's go higher. There we go. Let's get a better sample. That's better. It's like it's really funky and I don't like it. There we go. We are not at the right subdivision level. Let's try that one more time. There we go. That's better. There we go. So you bring some of that texture in. And if I wanted to push that a little bit further, what we could do as well is up here we have last adjust or adjust last, and that will help you make a stroke like this, and then you can adjust that last stroke. But what if I drew all these and I wanted to readjust all of that? So let me finish this. So I'll say like something like this. So I'm going to want to adjust all of this as a whole, just to say we did. Okay, so just so we have all of that in there, then what we can do is just to go back in history until the very first one, which is just that. We're going to store a history marker here by hitting Control and tapping, coming all the way forward in time. And now with the adjust last, now everything gets adjusted. So before, after, and you can adjust that however you need to. You can even tame it down a little bit by going in the opposite direction. So you can say something like that. So yeah, super cool, really easy. Fun little way. Okay. Just got a couple more in here. Yes. Okay, cool. Now with 3D printing, something to keep in mind is, of course, that when you are going to print something, you're going to lose a little bit of that detail. Even with good printers like today, you're still going to lose a little bit of that that surface detailing that comes in. So what you want to do is kind of push the things that you want to have pushed and let that prep forward and leave a good amount of space too. So any of these markings that I'm adding, I just want to make sure that like it's going to be pushed in enough to do so. And you can also do that with a brush. So you could use a contrast brush as an example. So where do we got it? There it is. Contrast delta, where you can actually come through and start painting over and pushing some of these textures forward. So if they're not deep enough, then you can come in and kind of push it. What's also fun about the contrast brush is, look, you can like kind of push things to be a little bit more ugly. And for some creatures, like this mimic here, it's really gonna like push that grossness up. And then you can kind of come in and clean things up. So for all this that we want to have crunchy, now crunching that a little too much. There we go. So you can come in here and kind of push some of that with the contrast. It's gonna push that detail up. There you go, something like that. And then I'll come in and I'll actually do a little bit of a touch up with an inflate, not that much. Now for the surface here, let's see. See a little, there you go. Yes. Ooh, he's nasty. Love it. Now, if you're worried about holes and stuff like I was talking about earlier, then that's okay, because we're gonna weld a lot of this stuff together. The teeth are gonna be welded to the body, even for the big one. Say something like that. So what I'm going to do with the body, so I'm going to delete lower on these subdivisions, and we're going to move into Dynamesh. And the reason why I like Dynamesh still is because I can just work and sculpt and rebuild and not worry about too much. But I'm going to work at a higher resolution. So we're going to say 500. This is about 1.2 million, 0 blur, and we're just going to hit Dynamesh. Say 1.4, so 1.2 to 1.4, perfect. So no real major loss of detail. I might have crunched the bottom too much. I'm kind of liking that too. It's kind of nasty. And he's a mimic, so you know. There we go. Yes. Yes. Actually, let's use the blob brush. I don't think I see enough. There we go. Kind of get that grittiness in there. And also just use the clay brush and then rebuild that. And we'll go through and we'll fix some of this. Come down here to the bottom. Actually, I'm really liking that kind of like weird texture it's coming together this way. Kind of digging that. It's kind of making him look a little bit more nastier. There we go. Oh yeah, I definitely have some thin spots in my mesh. What I'm actually going for is ballooning this up a little bit and just making this look more disgusting. Like, I'm liking the way this is looking. So I'm actually hiding those imperfections and those thin parts together like this. So then when I do this, now it's going to give me, it's going to delete that internals. And it's going to give me that water, that kind of watery tight mesh I'm going to look for at the end at this point. But yeah, they're still just kind of making it look a little funny. And then I'm going to just quickly just kind of balloon this up a little bit. And rebuild. Yeah, I kind of like that. I'll have to do the same treatment to the legs. But that's okay. That's actually like, it's going to be cool. You know what I probably did for that texture that's on the bottom? I think I know what I did. So let's do this. So I'm going to hit save as, and we're now going to go _2 because I've done a lot of changes to this. And I may want to go back at some point. So I don't want to go too far at this point. But if I go to my alpha menu, yep, there it is. I just used leathery skin. I think I used this one. So let's double tap that. There we go. Yep, that's exactly what I did. That makes sense. Okay, so what I want to do is prevent that that kind of back facing that's happening. So let's do backface mask, and I'm just going to set it to sub, so I don't have to hold Alt down. Okay, that's too heavy, so let's do that. There we go. Perfect. Just go up just a little bit. So a lot of times too, I'm actually going down with one stroke and up with another, just to give it, because I mean, I don't want to use a different alpha, so I'm just going to be lazy. And I'm just going to use this alpha to do this. Actually, let's just hit solo for a second. There we go. And then we'll give the same kind of balloon texturing to it. I think that came out pretty cool. Just kind of digging it. Also, I'm not being perfect here. I don't need to, he's a mimic. He's gonna be fine. Just gonna make it look kind of cool. How would you recommend the exporting of a tool with high detail for handling in other applications? You do not lose the micro detail in the process. So that's a great question. As my voice gives out, 1 second. Anyway, okay, so it depends on what application you're going into, because for something like 3D printing, here I'll be able to use Decimation Master and keep the micro detail, and I'll show you that here in a minute, which will allow me to keep all this detail that I'm sculpting in and move it into any slicer. And the same could be said for like a render engine or a game engine, or what have you. So ultimately, like Decimation Master is going to be your best friend. But if you're moving into a game engine and you have maps and that sort of stuff, then obviously like you're going to want to use other things like your normal map, your displacement map, or height map. Those are going to be used instead to get that detail in, and that's where baking comes in. So then I would move into something like, let's say, Substance Painter, and I would have the high detailed mesh via FBX or OBJ, and then I would bake all those details onto the low mesh version. So you'd have to have UVs and all that, and then makes those maps, and then you're now using a height map or some sort of displacement. So it's really going to greatly depend, of course, as to like where you're going. But for say like just moving the mesh with all of its detail and all of its glory, and you don't really care about ultimately about words are hard, about topology, then easily Decimation Master is your best friend. And it's actually really simple to use, and I'll show you here in just 1 second. I'm also just going to Control Inflate and then kind of balloon it. Yeah, it's looking gross. And then let's rebuild. So delete, Dynamesh, no blur. Yep, Decimation Master is a lifesaver, 100%, yeah. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. He's like even more cute now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, great. So let's say, for the sake of argument and the sake of time, because it's going on 12. So, yes. Okay. God, he looks so gross. If we were to get things merged for, let's say a miniature, what we need to do is just make sure that everything is intersecting with each other as much as possible. So typically this is where I'm going to say clipping is your best friend, because what you're going to want to do is make sure that, like, look, this bolt here needs to be actually touching, like, and it has to be there. And actually what we can do is just have a low brush size of 1, and then with the move topology you can just literally just grab and move that. So we want to come through here. No, not that one. We just want to make sure everything is kind of clipping. Also, turn off the polypaint, because if it's intersecting with each other, then it's going to merge correctly. We also can just Control Tap, and again, just kind of use our gizmo here too. So like this one right here that's intersecting too much. We want to be able to see it all. This one is not at all. This is kind of floating, so let's get that pushed in there. There we go. Kind of looking at all that. Gotta do the same with the bottom one, which I think actually I did pretty well. I baked all of these bolts onto the map. That's why they're all independent. Okay, that one works. That one. I think I might have found some reasons why my maps were erroring out earlier. Okay, cool. There you go. That looks better. This one is not. There you go. So you want to make sure everything is kind of intersecting with each other. And once you have that, then we can merge it all and then call that a day. Okay, those look fine. What would be... You have one... you have one floating bolt. Yeah, wait, hold on. Did we miss one? I got a ton of floating bolts. There we go. All right, let's see. All right, if you guys see any, let me know. Oh, wait, what the heck? Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Wait. What is this? What is this thing over here doing? Oh, okay. This actually, let's see. Oh, okay. I see. That's so funny. The hell? What the hell? Let's just get rid of that. I don't know where that goes. Am I gonna miss it? Am I gonna miss that one floating bolt? I don't think so. Oh no, wait, I am. There it is. I see. I see. I see. I see. Right there. Mm-hmm. Boom. That's where it goes. Okay. Cool. All right. That's pretty cool. All right. Fixed it. Let's hit save. All right. So let's say we have everything exactly as we want it to be, just for the sake of time. This is, again, like what I would do is I would make sure that everything is turned on the high subdivision level. So to do that, go to your subtool and say all high. Just make sure everything that's turned on is set to high. Now, again, we also need to make sure that the base is functional, that's good. So let's actually come in here and boolean the folder. Something happened. It did not like that. Interesting. What happened? All right, troubleshooting. Well, real quick, let me finish my thought and then we can troubleshoot. I don't want to tangent too much. Let's say we're just going to go ahead and send this guy to the printer without the base just for a second. So here, this is where, again, all high, make sure that everything is set up the way you want. Then we go into merge our visible. And then we get a separate one that's like this, which is perfect. And then we want to scale him. That's super important. Before we do anything else, we do want to scale him. So in order to do that, we go to our Z plugin. And then we're going to want to, I always recommend working in scale when doing 3D print stuff. So we want to go to Scale Master. Let's just come in here. Again, we're going to save this real fast. Save as. And we'll call this one. Call this one scale example. There we go. So we'll do scale example here, and then from here we're going to go ahead and so Scale Master. There we go, Scale Master. Just turn on all, and then we're going to work in millimeters. So we need to set scene scale first. We need to understand how ZBrush is seeing the object, and so here it's seeing it as 4 millimeters tall. So okay, great. So pretty small. So we actually need to go to 25.4 or 1 inch. And then we need to resize the subtool. It's going to do some weird movie magic. And then boom. Now this is here. So now what we want to do is we want to set scene scale one more time and make sure it actually went to that scale, which it did. And the reason why I recommend doing that is because anything we do now is going to, like if we check wall thickness, etc., then all of that is going to be set into the scale factor itself. Let's see, I have one question to ask up here. Can you please see? Is there a way to thicken all the mesh at once? So each mesh that you have, it's a great question. So all the mesh that you have right now, if you wanted to thicken everything all at once, like this whole thing, and keep them separated, I think the only way to do that, yes, the way to do that would be to turn on your gizmo and do the selected all subtools from there, and then make sure everything you have is selected. Okay, so now I can scale everything, but I also can inflate. So here real quick, I have this mask turned on, and I have, okay, no mask turned on. Okay, so come back here. So now I have all this, and now if I press and hold Control, I can inflate everything all at once. So I can do that. And now it just kind of blows. You with the subtool stuff, to kind of blow things up, there is a deformation right here. If you come over and then you do some sort of inflate, this will be per subtool. So that's one way you can do it, but it's not doing it to everything. It's doing it to just the one object. However, let's say I do inflate and I say, okay, that's great. Now I'm going to come through here and I can actually say apply last action to all subtools. This is in 2023 2023 and up. And if I do that, it's going to say, do I want to do that to all the subtools? And if I say yes, it's going to add that amount inflation to the rest of it. So that's the other way that you can go ahead and do that. But that might vary. Each, like what is, you know, a 0.01 inflation on one subtool might be a little bit different. So little things like that could work. Now for here, yeah, so if I wanted to inflate everything, this is all merged together now. So inflating this would actually be quite simple because it's just the one subtool. So either way, whatever you'd like to do. Now, if I wanted to, for making this all like, you know, making this watertight, making sure everything is copacetic, that's where, for me, there's two ways to go about doing this, right? If I were to come through here and go to polygroups and say auto groups, it's going to give me all the different groups of everything that's not welded together. Now, one of the things I loved about Dynamesh is that when it recognizes two parts, two subtools or more that are intersecting, and then you weld them together, then that intersection, the inside gets deleted, and then you're now left with the outside. There's another tool that does that as well, and it actually works a little bit better if you want to preserve all the detail as true as possible. And so what that is actually Sculptress. So, or not Sculptress, I keep saying that. It's it's Remesh by Union. Thank you. Anyway, so you open up your gizmo, just center it to your subtool. And then from here, we're going to open up the cog menu, and then we're going to say Remesh by Union. And by doing this, if I turn this on, it's going to go ahead and think for a second. This might take some time, but it's going to do essentially the same thing. It's going to try to stitch everything together and deleting any internals as needed. All right, perfect. So yeah, so now here you have everything as such. And it's telling me that everything within this box has been kind of stitched. So if we zoom in, you can actually see the stitching here. Might be a little faint, but it's there. And then what I would want to do is I would want to peek on the inside. I'm going to turn off the lines for a second. Kind of peek on the inside and kind of take a look and see if there's anything abnormally floating. Inverse that. Okay, there might be something here, but that's okay. We'll figure that out. Okay. So now if we were to do auto groups, it should actually have one poly group because it's all stitched together now. Hey, what's up, Zach? How you doing, bud? Yeah, so here you go. Here's one poly group. That's all stitched together. Oh, looks like we have some floaters. Boom, here we go. So this tells me exactly what's going on. So we'd want to, I'm actually just gonna take the move brush. Let's go move brush. Let's go here, back base mask. Let's get a bigger brush. Interesting. Didn't weld those together, or is that a separate? No, it's not a separate subtool. Yeah, okay, great. Well, they are masked off. So let's make sure that we just shove these all in there. Yes. You also can use the move infinite if you wanted to. You do want to be a little careful with this brush, because it'll affect everything infinitely, but in this case, let's actually make sure we... Nope. Shoot, forgot to slice. Didn't mean to do that. Let's back this out. Let's merge this in. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that little bit there, we may want to delete that. That's a hole. That is a hole we can delete, so we'll have to remember that. Okay, that's fine. It's actually good to know. That's what we want to look for. May not look like I'm doing anything, but we're definitely moving some stuff. Can even go the opposite direction with some of this. Make them a little bit bigger. There you go. Price to pay to have bolts. Oh, you're good? Nice, nice. It's good to hear, buddy. There we go. All right. Just maybe. Almost done. What we're gonna do next is, you notice we actually have some points that are not good. So what we're gonna need to do here is get rid of all this shenanigans. This is gonna be interesting. So I'm literally just going to be using a mouse for this. Actually, you know what we could do? Let's try this one more time. Let's actually, this is where the other method would be Dynamesh. The other method would be to turn down the blur, come into the resolution, find a resolution that makes sense. Looks like the highest resolution I'm finding is there, so 256. So where we're gonna turn on our lines real fast. And let's hit Dynamesh. Let's see what we got. I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go 350. I'm a little... Right now, it's 8.4 mil. We can also store a history marker here to pull some of this detail back, if we need to. Oh, no, that's pretty... It's pretty good. Okay, I dropped resolution a little bit. So let's say 750. No blur. Dynamesh. Okay, now we need to see something. So let's turn the lines on. And then from here, let's do auto groups. Let's see if we missed any bolts. We did not. Okay. But we have all of this shenanigans there. So, because we had all those floating bits, all I did was again, same thing, auto groups. You hit that, it's going to isolate. And then I'm going to click this and then shift control drag. And there's some floaties. So again, let's go here, geometry, and then let's do modify topology and delete hidden. So now go to polygroups, boom, auto groups, click this thing. All right, we're good. We are copacetic. So now what we want to do is let's see if it's how it's looking watertight wise. First thing is we can do an obvious check. We can go up to our transform, analyze, select the subtool, pick the size. Okay, it says it's not watertight. Now, all right, that's fine. Let's see why not. So there's a really interesting, fun way to do. I've been doing this one for years and I love it. Is that we're going to go ahead and get a box, just a big one. And basically what we want to do is turn on live boolean and set this to subtraction. And then with that subtracted, now something else I like to do as well is I like to just put this at the bottom. So I'm just going to move that at the bottom like this. So that way it moves this way. Now I'm going to hover over it and we're just going to start dragging. And what we're looking for is essentially, this is a 3D print layer line, especially for resin. And so what we're going to be looking for are obvious holes, you know, and kind of checking. Like it looks like there might be a hole here, but in reality, this is all kind of, this is looking like it's welded together. Might just be a little bit of a hole there. So, okay, that's fine. So we can just keep that in mental note. And we're just going to start dragging down. And like I said, I'm just looking for big, obvious holes. Okay, so we need to come back here and just take a look at how this gets welded together. So that's not a hole, that's just an angle thing. So that's just going to be dependent on if this layer line was straight across, that would generate some islands in the print, but it is welded together, so that's not a hole. But it is something to keep in mind. So this is an island that's floating, the tongue is looking pretty good. And I'm just going to come through. All right, so we have some pretty thin walls here. So this is something to kind of keep in mind. So what I'm going to do, not do that, I'm going to turn on the gizmo, W. Then I'm going to hit the transpose. Hit Y for transpose. I'm going to zoom all the way in. And then I'm going to measure from here to here by holding shift. So that's 0.1952 millimeters. It's up here at the very top. 0.1956 millimeters is that wall thickness. So that's not terrible. It's not great. It's thin, but it's not terrible. So something to note. We can always make that thinner. And the way we can do that, so now that we have this kind of sliced here, let's just go ahead and grab a move brush. And you guessed it, we're going to go ahead, backface turned on. Now, notice my brush size, because I'm working in scale, isn't getting super big. So we can actually go up to preferences, go to our draw size, and we can increase this. So we can actually go up all the way to like 5,000 if we wanted to. So now our draw size can be much bigger. So when you're working on scale, this is something you can do. So we can make that a little bit thicker like that. Okay, and then from here, again, open this guy up, set that to negative, and let's come back up. Yeah, that's, oops, wrong one. I'm gonna say this guy, come back up. Yeah, so now that thickness is a little bit better. Notice I fixed that thickness, even though we were seeing a visual cut. I fixed that thickness just by selecting the actual print itself, or the statue, the mimic, and then I just adjusted with the big brush size. And then I went back to the cutter. Now I'm just coming through. I don't really see anything that would signify a major hole or something. Ah, here we go, right here. Just as I said that. So Now that I have this here, same thing. I'm going to grab this guy, grab my brush. Now I want to preserve the detail of the model. So I want to make sure that I'm going to fill these holes accordingly. So, and this is where Dynamesh to me wins out, is because now I can grab that mimic and I can pull this back this way. So using the move brush with the backface mask protection, I can actually pull all this detail into itself like this. And then I can just control swipe and rebuild Dynamesh. Because like boolean is just a preview, it's actually not hurting the sculpture in any way. So now as I come back down, okay, there's a little bit more here. That's fine. Come back over here, kind of pull out a little bit, and then Dynamesh. And let's make sure Dynamesh is turned on. It is not, so let's hit it again. There we go. Come back this way. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. I could check thin walls inside the slicer, but the reason why I don't want to do that is because I want to not export out my mesh just to realize I got to come back into ZBrush and then fix it. This is kind of like a fail-safe. So by prepping this the way I'm doing this right now, it's allowing me to come through and make the corrections at the modeling side. You can always, there's a lot of really cool things now within a lot of slicers. Like I use Lychee slicer for most of my standard prints, but you know, if I can fix it here at this stage, I'm copacetic. That actually means that when I come back to this model, I know this model is correct and it's fixed. Yep, that is true too. Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking for inner islands, that's a great tip. Yeah, hit split parts. Nice, good stuff. Ah, the Trench Crusade. Yeah, happens to us all. Yeah. All right, cool. Anyway, we're gonna go for a few more minutes, but to then again to one of the questions earlier, this is 5 million vertices. Like, look how dense this is. If I want to like preserve this, so let's say I want to print him as is, but also I need to just make sure that he can stand. He can't stand right now. We need to work on the base, and I'm going to do the base off screen because I'm going to be wrapping it here in a second. But for just this demonstration purposes, actually, let's do this real quick. Let's come in here. Let's get to the base real fast. Something happened here, and I need to know what that was. So I'm going to go V3. Just turn this on. Something interesting happens. Is it the cutter? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay. Let me see something. Let me try booleaning it one more time. I got an error when I booleaned it last time. Knife brush. Yeah, we'll have to do a knife brush here in a sec. What's going on? Oh, it's because I'm solo. We're waiting for nothing. If you have solo turned on and you try to boolean a folder, it's not going to boolean. You'll just be doing what I was doing, which is just waiting. Waiting for it all. Okay. Boolean cannot be completed. Some subtools are invalid. Interesting. Because I had booleaned earlier. Okay, so that's fine. So there might be an error with one of my subtools. That works out. Okay, that's all good. So let's do this. I'm gonna cheat it, as they say. Oh, it could be because that's masked. And that could be it too, but let's see here. When in doubt, this is my go-to method. I'm such a caveman. I'm going to literally just Dynamesh stuff. Ooh, that's fun. That should be fine. That should be fine. That should be fine. Okay. Let's try that one more time. I could always do a merge operation. Oh my gosh. Why do you hate me now? All right, fine. All right, watch me figure this out, because we will figure this out. Let's do this. Modified topology. Let's go ahead and close holes. That might have been it. That could have been it. Explosion right there. Okay. Maybe. Let's come here. That's fine. Yeah, my mesh integrity is kind of funky dunky. Okay. Let's try this. When in doubt, so I'm going to turn off live boolean. I'm going to turn off the cutter here for a second. What I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to merge this together. Trust the process. I'm going to merge this together, then I'm going to dynamesh this. No blur, just straight up dynamesh it. And if it explodes, it explodes. Hey, what's up, Britt? Is this an error thing? When I get an error, I simply go to the tool and hit boolean again, and that makes the job. Yeah, it's a good question. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell sometimes exactly what is causing the issue. So sometimes I do some really unique workarounds, like what you're watching now. So I just sometimes will merge this all together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this one on, and I'm going to turn everything else off. There we go. So now it's just showing this. Now I'm going to go back to live boolean, and now I'm going to boolean this. This should this should work. Hopefully this will work. Oh my god, are you kidding me? No way. Let's just try. Let's just, what happens if we do it again? I'll laugh if it works. Come on, just do it. Leave it to me to end the stream with a problem. Yeah, no, it's yelling at me. Something is wrong. Okay. Oh my gosh. I don't actually understand what's going on here. Everyone talk to me, Goose. Let me see something. Let's turn on double. Okay. So why you bully me like that then, huh? Why you bully me? Let's see. Do I have any floating particles? Yes. Ah. Yes. Of course you do. Duh. Come on, Ian. This is what you guys love. I know it. I know in my hearts of hearts, this is why everybody comes here. Okay. Maybe? Oh, I'm in solo mode, so no, it's not gonna do it. We're gonna go 10 more minutes and then we will be wrapping it up. Oh my God. Well, I don't like you now. Or whatever. I don't understand what is happening. I'm gonna have to go yell. What is this? What is this? Is there something wrong with my cutter? There shouldn't be, because that would make no sense. You don't want that. It's not what I asked for. Spines. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to delete these internals here. Let's do save next. So save next will let me save the next iteration. So it's prep 3 at this point. If I can get this base, I'll show you guys the Decimate stuff and then we'll call it. I'm kind of annoyed with this base right now. So let's go here to weld points. Well, they say close holes. That took a long time. Why did that take a long time? Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's just come up here to transform selected, not watertight. What is happening here? Auto groups. We have some floating bits. Weird. We keep getting floating bits. Delete hidden. What is happening to my mesh? Yeah, that's fine. It's not composed of multiple parts. Okay. It's not composed of multiple parts. It's saying it's not watertight. Interesting. Okay. Well, you know what we could do? Maybe. Can I do that? Oh, wait. I think I know what I can do. Okay, let me try something. I am going to work around this because I do not quit. I'm not going to try to repeat the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That would be a fool's errand. Instead, what we're going to do here is we're going to try another old school technique. So I'm going to delete hidden here, and then I'm going to use my Z modeler, come over here. Instead of deleting a face, we're going to add QMesh, apply groups all. And I'm going to blow this up, say something like this. And instead of this being set here, okay, we're going to go ahead and just do something like this. Yeah, that should be fine, hopefully. I'm actually going to lower that down just a bit, say something like that. I don't know if this will work, actually. Ooh, this will be interesting. Okay, let me hit save next one more time. All right, we're going to try a thing. I'm going to do give us something with a bit more of a resolution. So that's bold and thick like that. But now this has live boolean turned. We're working on live boolean, but we're still set to the negative here. Okay. And so if I were to merge this down while this is set to negative, watch what happens with the poly groups here. So we're going to merge down, say okay. Now we got a white poly group. A white poly group that's encompassing my actual other base. And by doing this now, what we've essentially done is we've told ZBrush that this white poly group is a negative. So if I were to go ahead and turn on Dynamesh with that white poly group there, pause for effect. Actually, I have no idea if this is going to work. In theory, this should work. So the white poly group will see it as a negative or a subtraction. This is like the old school method. I love how we're pushing ZBrush, by the way. It's like 17.2 million vertices we're messing with. It's ridiculous. Like, just ridiculous. Boom! Oh my gosh. There it is. It did exactly what I was hoping it to do. Done. There it is. So it took that negative, you merge it together, turned white poly group. From there, it does a negative cut. And we get what we want. We got what we want. Boom. Base cut. Or just base at that point. Boom. Yes. That is when new processes, when other processes don't work. Yeah, you do that instead. Okay, so now what we can do is we can copy this guy. All right, because this is, we got this little sphere up here. All right, there you go. Okay, so now we got this base and how we relatively think that we would want it. Of course, we can bring this up so that it's more touching like we had it before. Okay, let's go ahead. We can finalize this. Let's go ahead and copy. I'll tell you guys what, next week we can cover like key cutting and stuff like that. This went a little bit longer than I thought it was, which not necessarily upset about. All right, we're gonna paste this. Now we pasted this, but it's super small. So instead we need to go to deformation and unify this object. And where are we at now? So it's right down there. Maybe we can go to see plugin. Let me see here real fast. If I go to Scale Master, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, I did unify, but that definitely didn't resize it, so that's okay. We can just blow this up manually. Say something like that. Come in here and affix it to where we want it to be, and then we can move the feet around as such. Yes, there we go. And then let's go ahead and save as this. So this will be our mini. There we go. That ultimately worked out. Okay, let's also make sure that we have this kind of moved where we want. And then you guessed it, we just merge this together if we wanted this to be merged. And then turn that off. Perfect. Okay, cool. Here. You know what I do here, actually? Let's do this. Solo. Instead of going into knife brush here, I do something like this. That's not what I meant. We don't need that much. We need something like... Oh, interesting. Okay. A little bit lower than that. Say something like this. Yeah, there we go. This should be good. Anyway, soften that just a bit. We can kind of bring that up. Or we can just pull that down. And then clip crossed. We just want like some flat edges to then add some keys. That's all I'm going for. Just want to make sure there's enough equal room to then clip it. And this is where we can do 100%. There we go. Okay. Cool. Now, if we were all happy with this and we wanted to keep the detail, the last tip I was going to give, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Let's just go ahead and hit save. Was, of course, the Decimation Master. So here, let's say we have everything merged together. So I'm just going to merge visible one more time just for the demonstration of this. And then we're just going to make sure that, you know, this is ultimately welded. So we'll just weld it real fast. Let's come over here to polygroups, auto groups. Okay, we're just gonna really make sure that this is welded. We're just gonna, for the sake of the last minute thing, I'm gonna go ahead and do my Dynamesh. So again, this is gonna be about something crazy. Dynamesh that, weld it all together. And then to preserve the detail, that's where Decimation Master is gonna come into play. So here, to reduce this down in size, what we're going to want to do is go to our Z plugin. And we're going to go ahead and dock this. Now, this is where things get a little interesting. Scale Master and 3D Print Hub do not work together. They work separately. And so we want to make sure that we first set our scene to what we want it. So I'm going to hit the set scene scale. We are at that 27 millimeter, which is fine for this right here. Now, before we do anything else, let's go to Decimation Master. And from here, we have a big number we're working with. We are working with 6 million. So what I like to do typically is, unless you're going to keep color, you can't come in, keep UVs, keep and use poly paint. I don't have any of that for this, and I will start with something custom, like 500,000 or maybe 750,000. And then I'm going to hit custom on this. And the reason why is you don't want to go too low too quickly, but you kind of want to see the iteration of the detail loss as it sort of works. What's up, Hired Gun? We're almost done with the stream too, by the way. After this, we'll wrap it up. But so here, like I said, we want to take a look at the loss of information using Decimation Master. Now, slicers have gotten really good. So usually you'd want to send something like around 200,000, 500,000 max, maybe 1 million if you're pushing your slicer. But now, like like Lychee's taken millions. It just depends on what you're going for. I still try to bring it as low as I can, just so I don't stress the slicer software. But everything's just getting good now. So just figure out what you think works best based on your experience with set slicer. Once it goes through that custom, because the very first time you run any one of these settings, it's going to run a pre-process current. So this is now after. So that's 750,000. Detail's still pretty cool there. That's good. So much lighter. And this actually might work out fairly well. But, you know, again, you can try to see as low as you can go. This is where now, like, so this is where it's currently at. If I were to hit 250,000, so if I Control Z back a couple times, this is before processing. Sorry, this is before processing. There we go. So before processing, after the first process, no change. Second process, no real change. third process, no real change. Nothing that seems out of the ordinary to me. And so this right here is about 250,000. So this would work out well for me. And then to go ahead and export this out, again, you go to 3D Print Hub, you select the subtool that you want to use as your measurement base. So then you go to 3D Print Hub and you update the size ratio, because right now it's just saying it's an inch. And while that could work for our purposes, what if your model was 600, millimeters? Like, that's not going to work out for you. So you need to update the size ratio and pick the proper one. So in this case, our millimeter. Now it has our actual measurements of this subtool. So now we can come through and export out via like STL or something like that. And then once you have that, you can go ahead and you can call this your Mimic Mini 25.4 or 25 millimeter. Totally fine. Or actually it's technically 27, base included. So whatever. So boom, export that out, and now you have it. And so that's how I would keep and preserve the detail as much as possible, because once you have that, then you're pretty solid. And there you go. So that's our mini, so to speak. So next week, if you guys want, I can go ahead and talk about I can cover key cutting and stuff like that, but that should wrap it up for today's stream. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. I had a ton of fun. Hopefully you guys did as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and save on that. Yes. Save as. And then let's come through here. Just delete. Come in here. Let's just call this 3D print scale example. Yeah, totally fine. Save and save. Cool, guys. All right, that is going to wrap it up. You guys so much for everything, and we will catch you in the next one. That's next week. Same time, same bat channel. All right, everybody.